Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi on this Sunday afternoon as we are seeing a bit of a change in the overall weather pattern. You know, one of the things that's happened, I'm just going to show you here on the jet stream pattern that's set up for that was set up for this morning. You know, with this strengthening vortex that's up in eastern Canada, it has forced the jet stream to come further south, and that has really pretty much put an end to all the hot weather today. For the most part, you have to go down into southernmost New Jersey and Delaware, and I'll show you on the surface map in a second where the warmer, more humid air is still playing out, and in those areas, you're just going to have to wait another day or so for a bit more of a push. But that ridge is out in the west, so we are at least still holding to this overall pattern that has been the case this summer, where it gets hot and humid for 2 or 3 days. In this case, it was an extra one. I think some places you might say it was for 4, and then it's done. And this trough just kind of lingers here in the east into the middle part of next week before a bit of a flat ridge builds up for Thursday. Maybe that'll be the one very warm day this week before we get another trough. And by the end of the week, the jet stream is lowering again. The westerlies coming down into about North Carolina still have that big ridge out in the west. It's usually a good forecast tool. Let the pattern change, let it evolve for you when it happens. Until then, don't try and guess when exactly this is going to happen. So if you've kind of played with this idea of trough in the east, ridge in the west, for the last number of weeks, just by simply letting the trend be your friend, you probably have had more forecast success than you would otherwise. Now, into next week, yet another trough, not really as strong, but you get some troughing again in the east. Little part of the jet stream kind of stretches out down into the Gulf states. The main jet is running just along the Canadian border and eastward. Still the big upper high, very strong upper high out in the western part of the U.S. And that stays there. I mean, it really does. The ridge in the east kind of responds to the Atlantic high that tries to build back westward, but it only has a minimal amount of success because by the end of the next week, here we go again, another deep trough for the first weekend of August. This is for August 6th, August 5th, August 6th. And then that lifts out, and, it would seem to me that you would probably have another one to follow. So I'm not really going to go too crazy in trying to figure out when this overall pattern is going to end. The European, kind of has the same idea, really. Here is the European run from the overnight. There's our system that's coming through for tonight and Monday. And then that lifts out, and then yet another trough for the end of this week that stretches down into the southeast. And that's followed by yet another one through the first part of next week. So I'm thinking that we're probably going to be done with like the really super hot weather through the rest of the calendar month anyway. Beyond that, who knows? I still think, you can always have the odd very warm day here and there that shows up, but other than that, we're going to be, near average, maybe a little bit below average on some days, a little bit above average on others, but no extreme heat, and that's good. I'm not good with extreme heat anymore. So let's look at what's going to be happening overnight, because we do have an onshore flow that has set up, and let me back this away. We're going to go pretty tight. You know what? Let me widen out just a little bit so you can get a flavor of the rest of the eastern half of the United States at least. So here we are for this evening, and we have low pressure that's moving up into western New York. Isobars are kind of stretched out down into the Delmarva Peninsula, and there's a bit of a warm front that's setting up through here. So the result is that most of the models, everyone I've looked at, wants to generate a pretty sizable area of rain that lifts up overnight and then pulls out after tomorrow morning. The GFS wants to linger the precip, I think, a bit too long. I think by mid-morning tomorrow it should be done, and we'll have leftover clouds to follow, and then generally improving weather conditions, although the model tries to spit up some showers here and there on Tuesday, but this would be in some cooler air and a northeast wind too. So that's going to be nice to have that wind from the northeast. Tuesday right into Wednesday, and then after that it goes more south and southwest because you have another front that's getting ready here for the end of next week. So again, Thursday I think might be the one day next week where it could get very warm and a bit on the humid side. And then that front wants to stall out on the GFS and on a couple of the other models. And the GFS wants to at least attempt to bring some kind of wave action here next weekend, but it does suppress it southward. So we'll have to see how that game plays out. But it would be also primarily on a northeast wind. So there we are at the end of the month. Maybe some opportunities for rain with this type of a pattern setting up into the first part of August. It looks like the highs want to build to the north, and you get these frontal zones that go by and stall out to the south. So that would be an ingredient for a wet pattern. Now let me show you with regards to severe weather risk for today and tonight. And the Storm Prediction Center is basically taking areas south of 195 in New Jersey, down to Delaware, into the Delmarva Peninsula, eastern Virginia, eastern Pennsylvania, except the northeast. And we do have a marginal risk indicated north of 195 up to about the New York State, New Jersey line to New York City. But we saw what happened yesterday with that sort of setup, and it really didn't amount to very much in terms of activity at all. Much of what was there wound up falling apart. And when we look at the surface conditions in the middle of this afternoon, you can see what's happened. It's in the middle 80s across southern New Jersey, down through Delaware and around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. I've overlaid the radar here so you can see that there are some scattered cells of thunderstorms that have developed in the warm sector. But north of this frontal boundary, it's in the middle and upper 70s. You know, you have the odd temperature here and there near the 80-degree mark, but that might mean because that particular place is sitting in a bit of sunshine. Most of the winds here are generally from the east across southern New England, and they're generally from the southwest on the other side of this front. But it's not a strong front because you can see the wind directions are kind of all over the place. It's not a sharp shift in the wind from northeast to southwest. It's kind of it's more of a gradual one. So look for. I don't think we're going to have much in the way of any kind of weather to worry about in terms of rain, certainly north and east of this frontal line through this evening. So if you've got outdoor plans for the rest of the afternoon, go ahead with them. I mean, it is rather overcast in most places, but we don't see anything showing up on the radar. And south and west of that line, we're going to have to watch to see if any severe thunderstorms try and develop late this afternoon or this evening. Actually, we do see a couple of light echoes, maybe rain aloft in and around New York City. I don't know if any of this is actually reaching the ground. And by the way, in the light green area, that's a coastal flood advisory because of the new moon tonight. So tides are going to be running above normal, so there could be some minor coastal flooding to deal with in those areas. The radar, I'm going to jump to the radar if I can find it. There we go. There isn't much happening. Again, at this moment, not too much happening other than what's developing. Let me make sure I got the most recent one, and we'll get close up. And you can see some of these cells here that are moving along. And actually, this particular radar is about 30 minutes behind. There isn't too much yet to our west and south, but I would suspect that we're going to watch this area down in here to look for a development later on in the day, and certainly for tonight. So I'm thinking, rain starts to come in here during the late evening hours from southwest to northeast, maybe makes it to New York City at around 10 o'clock or so, 11 to 12 o'clock in southern New England and eastern Long Island, and then it rains until maybe 9 a.m. till noon tomorrow, perhaps might end a little bit sooner than that. And in terms of rainfall amounts, I think somebody's going to wind up with 1 to maybe some local amounts to 2 inches in some of the heavier downpours that show up. Want to look at the tropics because we've got an interesting tropical loop here. Here's Hawaii. Fernanda's gone, but we have Tropical Storm Greg, Tropical Storm Irwin, and I'll show you on this view because you'll see it better here on this view, Tropical Storm Hillary. So you've got 3 tropical systems lined up, one after the other, with Hillary here, Irwin here, and Greg here. Hillary will probably become a hurricane. I'm thinking Irwin might struggle a little bit, but it might strengthen at least to a strong tropical storm. And we'll have to see what Greg does if it wants to wind up strengthening during the day. It looks a little better. All three systems actually look a bit better organized than they did 24 hours ago. Hillary stands the best chance probably of becoming a 100-knot hurricane because it's off the Mexican coast and it's in some relatively warm water. Actually, it's in very warm water there. So and the conditions are favorable over it. The wind shear is light. And in the Atlantic, here's a view with respect to Hawaii. As you can see, here's Hawaii, here's Greg, and here's Irwin. Hillary is off the screen, just coming into range. And here's the view on the water vapor imagery. So Greg is actually getting ready to move into colder water and drier air, but it's actually moving a little more south of west. So it may keep it over the warm water for a while longer. The other two systems are in a moist environment, although if you look at Irwin, it doesn't really look all that organized. Looks like there's some shear going on up on the northwestern side. And of course, on the Atlantic side, it remains very quiet. And I'll extend the loop out here. By the way, there's the sun. If you watch right there, there it is. That's the sun reflection on the satellite loop moving right across. We've got a couple of tropical waves, and they're moving westward, but we still have a huge upper air issues in the Atlantic. Look at this tremendous upper low that's sitting out in the east central Atlantic, and it's just dominating the flow just about everywhere. You've got strong westerly winds and southwesterly winds going all around this upper low, so that's creating a wind shear environment that is going to be unfavorable for development. And by the way, this is all dry air. Look at that. That's all dry air. Maybe I take a better color. It's not letting me. But that's, oh, there we go. And look at that. That is all dry air from the Sahara. All of this is still in play. And that dry air, by the way, extends also into the Eastern Caribbean. So there, to me, you know, you look at this, there's nothing but hostile conditions in the upper air just about everywhere you go. There's another upper low sitting off the southeast coast of the United States. You've got this upper low sitting in the Gulf of Mexico. It's just endless here. So until these conditions change, and by the way, this is July 23rd. The 99% of all your hurricanes occur August and beyond. And, you know, from the last, I would say the last 2 weeks of August till the middle of October is really when you see the vast majority of Atlantic tropical systems anyway. So this is still way too early. And also in terms of actual hurricane development, it's not, you don't really see hurricanes prior to this date from June to July 23rd. You don't really see that many you haven't really seen that many hurricanes form in the Atlantic Basin during that time frame. So from the standpoint of the tropics, things seem to be just moving along the way they're supposed to. Here's the West Coast satellite. If you want to take a look at what's going on in the West, other than the usual diurnal stuff, everything here is pretty much the same. And do I have an Eastern satellite view, or did I accidentally get rid of it? Might have gotten rid of it. Yep, I guess I did. All right, folks, so let's call it an afternoon here while it's still not raining. Enjoy yourselves outdoors. I actually finally got my pool algae free enough that I was able to take my first swim of the season today, which was good. So enjoy the rest of your day. We'll keep you updated on any developing severe weather that happens. I would think that right now, looking at the radar, doesn't look like there's going to be anything too threatening in the areas where we have that slight risk. You should be able to hear me. So if somebody on the chat board can let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Somebody just type it up there. But I think I got my audio on. Anybody? Just kind of type in the chat. I would appreciate it. Oh, great. So you guys can hear me. All right. Great. All right. So listen, I have a little extra time. So maybe you guys can, if you've got any questions one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make these, it's very tough for me to, I'm using this kind of technical software to be able to switch sources and be live at the same time so you can see me. And it's kind of tough for me to concentrate on the weather part of it. And I certainly don't want to neglect that part of it. So I'm streaming the weather part of it, and then I can switch to this live part where we can sort of talk face to face. So Junior Celeste in St. Lucia. Oh, yeah, you're in that. There's a couple of tropical waves out to your east, but you know what? I don't see anything really unusual with regards to the weather going on through the tropics, given the time of year. We certainly had two unusual events in seeing two tropical storms pretty far to the south and seeing them before the beginning of August. That is a bit unusual. But now we seem to be very quiet in the Atlantic, and I really don't see that changing very much certainly over the next week. Maybe when we get into the first part of August. But for the time being, you saw what I showed you before, that big, huge upper low that's sitting out in the tropical Atlantic. And as long as that's out there, that is going to create a very strong upper air winds over a good portion of the tropical Atlantic. So you're not going to be able to get any kind of development. So anybody else have any other questions? Just post them on the chat. In the meantime, I just would like to say thank you to all of you who are on here on my YouTube channel. I'm really enjoying how this is evolving for me and what I'm going to try to be doing going forward. It is it's all somewhat new to me. I'm not completely unfamiliar with working with the tech stuff. It just takes me a little while to get it going. But once it does, once I figure everything out, I can move along. So hopefully we'll be able to expand and do other things. I'd like to maybe bring Angry Ben one of these days on with me. So we're going to try to figure out how we can do that at the same time. Okay, Christopher said, will this Atlantic season get really bad? Because they said for 8 hurricanes and 3 majors, and we've only seen 4 tropical storms. All right, Christopher, given the time of and a tropical depression, given the time of year, June and July are most years are inactive months. You go many hurricane seasons where you don't see anything develop until the beginning of August, and then you wind up with 10, 12, 15 storms between August 1st and October 30th. So that we've seen 3 named storms, actually 4. Arlene was back in April. I'm kind of leaving that out of the equation, but in terms of what's formed in June, July, and August, I'm not, we're probably going to see a burst of activity. I don't see enough, there's no El Nino or La Nina. So the La Nina years would create a lot of activity. We know that El Nino years usually where you have relatively inactive years in the Atlantic, and right now we're kind of in neutral. So I think you're gonna see the activity pick up, but we got to get rid of that upper low. Let's see. Pam Z says, why is the temp and UV higher than what is actually reported? I'm not understanding, Pam. If you could clarify your question, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure what you're getting at with your question. You said, why is the temp and UV higher than what is actually reported? So clarify that if you would. Dusty Rose, what are your views on CMEs and the weather? The CME, the coronal mass ejection. So this has to do with solar flares and so on. I had to Google that because I wasn't 100% sure what you were getting at. I have not really spent a lot of time looking at that sort of stuff. I know I've read a few things about it, but I don't think I really haven't read up too much to give an opinion on those things. I've always kind of felt that those things do have some kind of impact somewhere. How they have impact, I don't quite understand, but I'll have to look into it a little bit more. Tepe 1096, 76. I should do this poolside. Yeah, well, the only thing is it took me over a month to get all the algae out of my pool. It was so bad. So today's really the first day I was actually able to swim in it. And, of course, it's completely overcast, and now we're going to have this rain overnight and this cooler weather that's coming. So I lost the whole heat wave, but what can you do? Arado Munoz. Looks like the Pacific is going to be active on hurricane season in August and September. And Gold Twister 888 adds the Eastern and Western Pacific are on fire in terms of tropical activity. Yeah, usually, when the Eastern Pacific is very active, the Atlantic side is quiet. So I'm not really too, this is not too unusual to see this happening. It's been a very busy July. I've gotten, I think, 6 or 7 tropical cyclones on the Pacific side. But what often winds up happening is that when the Atlantic finally starts to get you'll get your clue when the Pacific activity begins to slow down in the Eastern Pacific. When that activity begins to slow down, you will see the Atlantic side pick up. And I venture to guess that in another few weeks, you'll start to see some change on the Atlantic side. Got to get that upper low out of the way. That huge upper low in the Central Atlantic has got to go. And until it does, you're not going to be able to. You're going to generate nothing but hostile conditions across much of the tropics. You got to do something about all that Saharan dust that's coming in with all that dry air coming off of Africa. So that, too, is an issue. Don Quixote, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Junior Celestin, how long the Saharan dust will be around for? That actually, when that happens over the years, I've seen it where sometimes it's there the whole tropical season, but sometimes it's also there even on active seasons. It just, my guess is at some point it'll probably shut down to some degree. But it is a problem why it is there. Why is the actual temp higher than what the media reports? Why are you asking me? Why is the actual temp in the sun? Maybe is that what you're telling me? That's what you're asking me. The media temp, the actual air temperatures that reported are the air temperatures, and they're taken where there is a minimal amount of outside environmental impact, and that includes having the thing sitting in the direct rays of the sun. The infrared rays, heat unevenly. You try to get an air temperature, and there's a problem with that too because certain places. I'll give you an example. LaGuardia Airport's thermometer is now exposed to long-term airport construction, jet exhaust, and bumper-to-bumper traffic that exists outside on the highways that surround the airport. And that impacted the thermometer there. It impacts the thermometer there greatly, except when there's a northeast wind. But, this winds up getting reported, though, is what are numbers that are about probably 4 to 5 degrees out of whack from the actual air temperatures. The same problem, to a lesser degree, applies at Newark Airport, where I think that the airport temperatures, basically when you're taking a temperature on a runway over blacktop, you're going to have a problem. Bryce, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. I'm going to try, when we do these live streams, I'll try and take them up to 30 minutes so that we can, I'll have some time at the end so we can do a little bit of this Q&A you can come at me with anything, folks. If you've got any suggestions or ideas, I'm welcome to them. Just Zach, I've been into weather for as long as I can remember, and I watch storms all across the country and want to be a meteorologist. Do you have any advice on what I should do to achieve my goal? Okay. First of all, follow your passion. It's great that you are immersing yourself in all the things you're doing. There's so much more available to you than was when I was growing up. But still, you have what's in front of you. The generation that follows you will have more than what you have. I mean, this is just the nature of life. Immerse yourself in all the things and find what really piques your interest. For some people, it's long range. For some people, it's tropical weather. For some people, it's wintertime weather. For some, it's severe weather. find the thing that you really enjoy and learn as much as you can about it. For me, it's been winter weather and maybe tropical weather. I like short range. I'm not into long range. Severe weather, I kind of, it's part of the whole equation, but it's wintertime weather that I'm really into. And, I spent a lot of time doing a lot of work, research, and kind of cutting my teeth on wintertime forecasting because it is very difficult at times. So, and of course, you're going to go to school, make sure you can handle the math because that's always tough. But, go to school, take your meteorology courses, take your math courses, take your communication courses so that you can learn how to communicate, work on TV. I don't know if you want to do research, if it's television and radio, or actually the way things are going, it's probably going to shift and everything is going to be completely on the internet, so that the internet takes up more and more of all this. Decide what it is you want to do, and if that's what your passion is, make it work for you. Okay, if you can, we all have to work for a living and earn our way and pay for the things we want. And if you can, since you spend a third to half of your day working, if you can do it at something you love, you are 99% ahead of the game, because it's great when you can go to work and enjoy what it is you're doing. And if that's not many people get to do that. There's having a job and having it be your passion is a wonderful thing. So if you can do that, just Zach, that's my advice to you. Okay. Dio Nand Kumar, in New York City, will it rain the whole day today? No, I don't think. You've got some showers that have kind of developed on the radar lately, but most of the area is not doing much of anything. So the real rain will be coming tonight. Connie Talenda, are airports the only place to take temperatures? Well, the airports have, because weather is so critical to aviation, the airports provide information, but temperatures are taken everywhere, and there are networks of thermometers that are not non-airport based. So we can look at all of those now, and you can find those all over on different weather websites. And you can have one yourself at your house if you'd like. These things hook up with WeatherBug, I believe. That's one of the ways to do it. Usual temp in the sun is 4 points more than actually report. Yeah, well, that probably makes sense, Pam Z. When is an active hurricane season on the winter? Could be wetter. Everardo, I looked at this years ago, and I haven't looked at it again. But I don't think there's any real correlation between the kind of hurricane seasons you have and the kind of winters you have. I've seen active winters coming off of inactive hurricane seasons. I've seen the reverse of that, and I've seen other combinations. So I don't think that one necessarily has anything to do with the other. Dusty Rose lives in Colorado, and in my backyard has been so hot that my plastic pots are melting. I would not be surprised. Your heat wave out west has been unrelenting. Can you wave your magic meteorological wand and make it rain? Dusty Rose, I got to make that ridge in the west break down because it doesn't want to break down. So, and I don't see anything in the next couple of weeks. It flattens at times, but then it comes right back up. So your long-range pattern out there is still with that big ridge in the west, and if that's the case, you're going to continue to be dealing with heat. And just Zach is in inland Massachusetts. Winter is a cool thing to watch inland where you are. I was out in the blizzard of March, enjoyed it, but it got so cold quickly. Yeah, that it did. One of the signatures this winter, especially down for southern New England and for the northern areas of the Northeast, the snowstorms that occurred this winter all occurred where we were seeing temperatures in the 60s 24 hours before. So that was a remarkable thing about this past winter, that we had, 2 big snowstorms with those conditions in place. But that was the signature last minute winter. Teppy 9076, you just gave me a clue. I know where you are. Okay. Welcome. I'm glad you're on my channel. Now I got to figure out who you really are. Let's see. Mark Montori. What's my gut telling me for hurricane season? I am Long Island transplant down here in South Florida. Local meds down here are saying it's more ominous this year compared to previous years. Well, you know what, Mark? You've got that Atlantic Ridge is pretty far to the south, and usually in years like that, it does tend to want to bring more storms further west and bring them into the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico has been kind of in a what I would call there's been almost like a boilerplate over the Gulf of Mexico over the last number of years with regards to not only winter weather systems coming out of the Gulf, but summer tropical systems actually even getting into the Gulf. But I'm thinking that maybe if the way this pattern holds, there might be some activity either on the Gulf side or on the East Coast side that maybe we'll track further to the west. And Abaddon, the Atlantic tropics will start to pick up as we get into the month of August. Even the first part of August, even though climatologically activity does pick up, it's really more toward the second part of the month that you start to really get into the tropical season. And September is the prime month. And you got that lightning strike just, Zach. That is amazing. Pam Z, cloud seeding, HARP, affects weather, chemtrails. Okay, you know what? I'm going to just tell you, and I've said this a few times before, that's not my thing. Okay, that really isn't my thing. So I kind of not discussed that issue. Oh, Stephanie, I miss you too. Oh, nice to hear from you. Glad you're on here. I had a feeling it might be you. Old fellow employee of mine. I'm not employed. She didn't work for me. I'm sorry. We work side by side. Good to see you on this channel. Dusty Rose, thank you very much. It's very nice, kind of you to say. Appreciate it. I enjoy doing this very much, and I'm really getting into, really getting a lot out of this. So if I had to figure this out when Hurricane Matthew was around last year, but you know what? There'll be others. Dio, no problem in answering. Oh, I did get it right. Oh, that's cool. Dio says thanking me for pronouncing his name correctly. I know I get a lot of problems with Cioffi. People always mispronounce it and misspell it left and right. Love learning about winter storms, and I'm subscribed to your Facebook and YouTube page. Thank you very much, Dio. Really appreciate that. You are on all my sources, and thank you all for being here. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, by the way, hit the little red subscribe button on the channel page. It does go a long way to help me out, and I love having the more of you on, the better. And I'm really enjoying this. So I think at this point I'm going to call it a day because I want to go out and get some fishing done before any rains get in here. So everybody, have a great rest of your Sunday. I'm going to try and do more and more of these chats after the live streams, and we can get into conversation. And when the winter storms, when the hurricanes, tropical storms, winter storms, whatever we have to deal with, when they come along, we'll get together here, and I think we're going to have we're going to enjoy ourselves very much. All right, have a great rest of your Sunday, and we will talk to you very soon.